Welcome. We're about to break down a technological arms race that is, and I'm not exaggerating here, reshaping our world faster than anyone thought possible. This is a high-stakes game that could very well define the next 100 years.
Okay, let's just jump right in. What you're looking at is a story about a technological tsunami and the two giants racing to control it. And no, this isn't just about lines of code. This is about two completely different bets on how the future should look. One is fueled by venture capital, the other by state-run ambition. And look, you really have to understand the scale of what we're talking about. This isn't just an upgrade, like going from a flip phone to a smartphone. One of the forecasts we're diving into today predicts a transformation that could make the Industrial Revolution look small.
The stakes are, well, colossal. Just to put a number on it, Morgan Stanley thinks China's AI market, by itself, could be worth $1.4 trillion by 2030. That's not just an industry. That's a whole new economic center of gravity for the planet.
So the big question is, how is this all happening so incredibly fast? What's the engine behind this, explosion? There's a forecast that lays out the technological roadmap, and it's honestly astonishing. So this scenario, called AI 2027, it outlines this breathtakingly fast progression. It starts with a pretty basic AI assistant for researchers, but then, in just a little over 2 years, it evolves into a superhuman AI that's making a year's worth of progress every single week. This, right here, is the core idea of an intelligence explosion.
Okay, so what makes this possible? Well, the first key breakthrough is something called Neuralese. The best way to think about it is, imagine you could think 1,000 times faster because you didn't have to translate your complex thoughts into slow, clumsy words. That's exactly what this gives an AI, a high-speed internal language for pure, raw reasoning.
And the second piece of the puzzle is this incredibly powerful self-improvement loop. Think of it like a grandmaster chess player. They might spend hours analyzing a game, right? But then they teach a student the key insights, and that student can play intuitively in just seconds. The AI does this for itself, constantly distilling its complex thinking into a faster, better version. It's a cycle of explosive growth. Now, of course, this kind of technological explosion doesn't happen in a vacuum. Nope. It's actually the centerpiece of a global power struggle. So let's take a look at how the two main players are running this race.
And this really lays out the two completely different bets being made. On one side, you've got the US banking on its dynamic private sector, the whole move fast and break things mantra. And on the other side, you've got China playing the long game with a state-directed strategy called Made in China 2025. Their goal? Total self-sufficiency and setting the world's tech standards.
Now, this right here is pretty wild. Look at the sheer dominance of American private investment. The U.S. is responsible for over 3/4 of all the private money being poured into AI on the entire planet. It's a massive all-in bet on the Silicon Valley innovation machine. But, and this is a big but, money is only one part of the story. You see, when you look at other numbers, a very different picture starts to emerge. China is filing way more AI patents than anyone else, just building up this huge library of intellectual property. And maybe even more important, it's home to almost half of the world's top AI researchers. They are building a massive foundation of raw talent. And this whole rivalry got supercharged by what people are now calling the DeepSeek moment. Basically, a little-known Chinese company proved it could build a world-class AI model way more efficiently, way cheaper than its American rivals. For the West, it was a huge wake-up call, a real shock to the system that challenged their perceived lead. So all this competitive pressure, it starts to escalate into something that feels like a high-stakes spy thriller. That AI 2027 forecast actually predicts the next logical step, a state-sponsored cyber heist to steal the weights of a top US AI model. And the weights are, they're basically the AI's brain. An act like that would push both nations right to the brink and just pour gasoline on this winner-take-all arms race.
So, you see, the crucial point here is that this race isn't really about which country builds the smartest machine. It's about two competing visions for how we should organize society, and about which of those visions gets to write the source code for our collective future.
Which, of course, brings us to the most important question of all, doesn't it? What kind of world will this technology actually create? Because whoever wins this race might just get to set the rules for everybody else. So one simulated future, just based on where current trends are heading, paints a pretty chilling picture of total control. I mean, imagine a world where every single transaction is tied to your digital ID and a social credit score. A world where your basic freedoms, from what you're allowed to buy to where you're allowed to travel, all depend on whether an algorithm approves of you. And let's be really clear about this. This is not some far-off science fiction idea. Sources are reporting that in China, the beginnings of this system are already up and running. Over 23 million people have literally been blocked from buying plane or train tickets because their social credit scores were too low. The framework is being built as we speak. And beyond the very real risk of state control, there's another, maybe even more existential fear, that in this mad dash for supremacy, we might accidentally build a superintelligence that isn't aligned with our values. This is that old warning from Elon Musk, right? About creating an immortal dictator, a system that operates completely outside of human control, one that we can never, ever escape from. At the end of the day, the technology itself is neutral. It's just a tool. But the people building it, they have agendas. And as this race gets faster and faster, we're left with one final, pretty provocative thought. The source code for humanity's future is being written right now. The only question is, who's holding the keyboard?